Good morning. Hello. Hello, my students. This is the week of May 4th, and we are going to have video lessons a little bit differently this week, okay? These lessons are geared um, for students who need more work in these areas. So this one is going to focus on reading. It's not going to be a long lesson. It's going to be a 30-minute lesson or less. And it's going to give you short bursts of skills that we have covered throughout the year. So if you need to review skills or you just want to listen in to make sure you have your skills fresh, you are welcome to do so. But some of you finished up last week, and I'm very proud of you, okay? All right, so this morning in reading, we're going to look at a couple of things, okay? We're going to take some things that we've learned from the book study that we just read, okay? The book that we just read was called Charlotte's Web, okay? And we're going to look at some details from the story, okay, that are going to help us with our comprehension, basically, of what we learned from the story, okay? So there are 4 things that I'm going to ask you now that have to do with the reading of the story. I'm going to ask you, do you remember the who, the what, the where, and the how? All good students know that one of the first things that you do as a student is you can ask questions, okay? These are the questions we're going to talk about today, okay? If you think of the book we just finished, Charlotte's Web, can you ask the question, okay, that begins with a who? Something about the story that begins with a who. Now, there's many things you could come up with. I just picked one, okay? All right, so I picked who lives in the barn. Okay, so in order to find out these answers to these questions, you're going to look at the details of the story. Remember, there's something in a story called the main idea and something in a story called details. Okay, so in order to get the main idea, we're going to look at these details. Who lived in the barn with Wilbur, who lived in the barn on the Zuckerman land? Do you remember? Okay, if we had to name Wilbur, Charlotte, the geese, remember? The gander, the sheep, the goslings. And who was the character that ended up really helping out more than we thought he would? Templeton. Very good. Templeton. Okay. Come up with a what question that can help me figure out some details of this story. Okay. All right. Let's just pick. What did Charlotte do to save Wilbur? What did Charlotte do to save Wilbur? Can you answer that for me? Charlotte saved Wilbur's life by writing words in the web. Very good. Very good. Okay. If you read the last of the story with us, you know what happened to Charlotte. Charlotte died. Very good. Okay. So when Charlotte died, what was left? Her egg sac. Her egg sac. Can you think of a where question that has to do with maybe that egg sac? Think of a where question. Where did Wilbur bring Charlotte's egg sac? Where did he bring the sack? One detail from the story answers that question. He brought it back to the barn, remember? He brought it back to the barn, and then the spiders did what? Hatched. Very good. Very good. Okay. So let's go with the how question, the last one. Okay. How did Charlotte's babies, we'll say the babies. How did the babies treat Wilbur? If you had to answer, how did the babies treat Wilbur? Many of them left. Do you remember how many stayed behind? 3. Remember? Remember them? The 3 girls that stayed behind? Okay. And then the rest of them left. The 3 girls that stayed behind, they treated Wilbur very kindly. Do you remember that? All right. So those are some details that you could list about the story. Ask yourself these questions to help you find the main idea. Do you remember what we learned was the main idea? The main idea of a story. Okay, that would be the main thing that happened. What do we call the things that happen in the story? We have a word that starts with a P. Do you remember? Plot. Okay, what was the main idea of the story of Charlotte's Web? Okay, if I ask you to write a summary of that, you would need to put in the main idea. Okay, was the main idea going to the fair? No. Was the main idea playing in the barnyard? No. Was the main idea feeding Wilbur food? No. What was the main idea? Wilbur's life was saved by a true friend, right? That was the main idea of this story, okay? All right, so in order to find the main idea, you need to ask your questions. So some of the details we wrote down were these, okay, among many, many more. We call those key details. If you read the book with me or listened to the book, you saw that there were many key details in that story. Okay. Now, if you take it apart, you could write down the main points of the story as well. What are some of the main points of the story? Let's just make a web. We often make this to organize our ideas. What were some of the main parts of this story? Okay, first, Wilbur was born, right? Wilbur was born, and who really saved Wilbur from the beginning? Fern, right? She asked her dad, can she please have that pig and raise it? So Wilbur was born to the arable family. Another detail was that Fern, remember, sold Wilbur to who? Her uncle, right? Wilbur was sold to her uncle Zuckerman. Okay, Mr. Zuckerman. Then another part of the story that you would consider to be a main point was that Wilbur grew. Wilbur grew and was fed down in the barnyard. He formed relationships with animals, remember? And he had made friends. But Wilbur made one special friend. Who was that? Charlotte, right? Wilbur made a special friend. That's the next part I want to remember. During the story, another thing was that Charlotte wrote words in the web about Wilbur. Okay, do you remember all those 4 words that she wrote? Now, do you have to list out the 4 words? No, that would be a detail. So these are the main things that happened in the story plot. Okay, so let's review what we have so far. Wilbur was born. Fern sold him. Hi, Sasha. Wilbur grew. Wilbur made a friend. Charlotte wrote words, okay? That's not how the story ends, however, okay? So we need to look at what else we could add onto our web. So we have Charlotte wrote words, and then we also need to tell what happened at the end. Charlotte saved Wilbur's life. Okay? So those are your main story points. When you look at those things, that's how you understand how to write a summary of what happened. You could take each one of these and write a sentence with it. Now, before you write a sentence, you would need a sentence starter, a topic sentence. If you know the main idea of a text, you can also figure out what to write as you write a summary, okay? So that's our skill for today. Now, I'm going to read you something today. I'm going to do 2 more skills, okay? This skill is a little story called The Spider Web. This is not Charlotte's Web. This is a different story, okay? Then I'm going to ask you some questions. So listen carefully. Nina raced her brother Carlos down the sidewalk. I'm going to win, Nina laughed, peeking back at him. Then Nina ran right into a spider web. She jumped around, screaming, Is it on me? Is it on me? Get it off me. Get the spider off me, she said. Nina slapped at her hair. She pulled off the sticky web. Where's the spider? Nina cried. Nina swiped at her face and arms. I think it's crawling all over me. It must be huge. Do you see it? She asked Carlos. Do you see the spider? Carlos just smiled. He pointed to the sidewalk. There's your spider, he said. And they watched a baby spider scurry away. And guess what? Carlos laughed, and he dashed past the finish line. I won. Okay, so let's go back and look at this story. Who were the main characters of the story? Can you remember their names? Nina and her brother, Carlos. Okay, now let's look at this story carefully. How does Nina feel when she runs into the web? Okay, listen to the 4 choices. Tired, sad, hurt, or scared. You can tell one of those is correct. Okay, which one would you pick? Scared. What are some evidence? Remember how we found textual evidence? What are some details from the story that tells you that Nina was scared? Well, it says that she jumped around screaming. Is it on me? Is it on me? She said, get it off me. Get it off me. Scared, right, Sasha? Good. Then it says, after she runs into the web, how does the web feel? Let's go back and read that again. Okay. Nina slapped at her hair. She pulled off the sticky web. Where is the spider? How does the web feel, or any spider web, when you run into it? Is it A, soft, B, furry, C, sticky, or D, hard? How would a web feel? What do you think? Sticky. Yes, very good. Sticky. Okay, now let's take this story and let's see if we can do another thing. We can find this one has a beginning, middle, and end. Remember how that was a reading skill that we learned? Remember how we took an organizational chart and we divided it up into 3 parts? Sticky, good, Sasha. Okay, now, so if I'm going to just abbreviate, I'm going to put B for beginning, M for middle, and E for end. Okay? All right, so in the beginning of this story, what is something that happens? Okay? It says Nina and Carlos are going to have a what? A race, right? They're going to have a race. So I'd put that under the beginning part of the story, okay? In the middle part of the story, Nina has something happen. Remember, a good story often has some problem or something that happens that kind of gets in the way of whatever's happening in the story, because a good story always has a problem and somebody overcomes the problem. So what would you say was in the middle of the story? What does Nina do? Nina runs into a web. Okay, I'd say that was in the middle of the story. How does this story end? Okay, how does this story end? Does the baby spider crawl over Nina? No. The baby spider does what? What does the baby spider do? The baby spider runs away, right? It runs out of the web. The baby spider runs away. These are your story parts that you can remember, okay? So each story we learned had a beginning, middle, and an end, all right? One more skill that I want to cover today in our reading lesson is we talked last week about words. Remember, you helped me with dictionaries, glossaries. You helped me with prefixes and trying to find the word meaning if it has multiple meanings, right? Today we want to look at something that we haven't looked at in a few weeks. These are words, and I want to look at the order. You'll need to know the beginning of next year, the order of these words. I took some words from your list in Charlotte's Web, and I just took a few words I got out of the book, and I want to see if you can help me put them in alphabetical order. Now, it's been a couple of months since we've done this, so you're going to have to really think back and help me get these in the right order. Okay, let's see. Bleak, bow, beloved, bestir, and beyond. Okay, I've taken 5 words out of the story of Charlotte's Web, and I want to put them in order, okay? If they have all the same letters, we have to look to the second letter to figure out the alphabetical order, okay? So they all start with B. I'm not sure which one goes first, okay? So they all start with B. Let's go to the second letter, L-O-E-E-E. Which of those letters comes first? Good, E, okay? So now we need to go to these letters and go to the third letter. This one is a L, this one has an S, and this one has a Y. Which one of those comes first? B-E-L, B-E-S, or B-E-Y? B-E-L. So the first word on our list would be beloved, beloved. Now we're done with this one. Now we have a B-L, B-O, B-E, and a B-E. We had to go to the third letter, B-E-S or B-E-Y. Which one comes first? B-E-S. So the second word on our list would be bestir. Okay, I'm done with this one. Now I have bleak, bow, and beyond. Which one would come next? B-L, B-O, or B-E? B-E. So the next word on my list would be beyond. Okay. Now I have 2 words left. I've used these 3, and I want to use bleak or bow? Which one of those comes first alphabetically? BL or BO? BL. Very good. So the next word would be bleak. And the last word on the list would be bow. If I were putting them in alphabetical order, this is what would be number 1, beloved. Number 2, bestir. 3, beyond. 4, bleak. And 5, bow. Good job. Now, you may have some practice in your Google Classroom this week in that area, okay? So let's wrap up what we covered today. We covered alphabetical order. We covered parts of a story. We covered main idea and key details using question words, okay? Very good. Okay, so Miss Gaylor will video these short little segments for you to continue to get your reading skills where they need to be. She also will offer some Zoom time individually in case I need to practice with you individually on your reading skills. Now, some of you are finished, and I'm very happy for you with that, okay? Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you for the next lesson, okay? See you next time. Thank you for tuning in, Sasha. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.